Welcome to Hannah's Heart.
So Hannah, she's just one of the women who did struggle with infertility in the Bible.
No matter who we are, we can be inspired by the fact that Hannah took her pain to God, and God heard her and was with her.
So when she was praying at the temple, she had been weeping and not eating, and her lips were moving, but her eyes were closed, and the priest was like, "Hey, why are you drunk at the temple?"
It can become an obsession when you want a child so deeply.
And desiring that baby and to be a mama. Every holiday, every Mother's Day.
This is not a show that's going to promise you a certain outcome, but this is a show that says, however God answers your cry, we know that He's enough.
Hey, I'm Ann, and thank you guys so much for listening to Hannah's Heart today. If you're new here, we are a show that focuses, on really a lot of things now, from infertility, adoption, foster care, singleness, miscarriage, child loss, just really, really a lot of things here. Sometimes it can seem like really heavy things because, it's like your life, if you're experiencing those things, your life probably doesn't look like the way you pictured it would when you were a little girl or a little boy. And so we just want to say that we're here with you. Us here at Hannah's Heart, we have walked through lots of loss ourselves as we've struggled with infertility and had multiple miscarriages and babies in heaven. And so we just want to say that we're grateful that you're here and giving us a listen today. And for those of you who have come back week after week, y'all have been so encouraging as you reach out and just say how just thankfully that we have spoken into your life and encouraged you to cling to Christ along the way as you're making doctor's appointments and visitations with foster care and going to court dates and things like that. We're just so grateful that you return every week, and we hope that we can continue this for a long time. And so thank you for being here. Today, I'm alone in the studio, except me and Mark, the producer. But usually I have someone sitting beside me, and it's just me today. And I'm like, what in the world? What is this? But I have someone special to my heart on the phone with me today. There would never be a way she would know how special she is to me because, she joined me so many early mornings on the couch through her book as I would read through her book called Mercy Like Morning. And it just, inspired me to grow in my walk to Christ, with Christ, while I was desperately wanting a baby, and helped my view on desiring a baby. It helped put it into perspective of, okay, where like this desire is okay, but like always to desire the Lord more than any desire here on earth. And so Jane Johnson, the author of Mercy Like Morning, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my gosh, we just got started. You're already making me cry. But it's incredible to hear the testimonies of women that are impacted by my story that I'm writing in a room by myself, and I'm taking from my prayer journal pages. And it's truly like, it feels like such a vulnerable thing to invite you into my private pain.
Yeah.
As now I have, I'm kind of down the road and down the rapids, and I'm kind of warning you of what's ahead, and to be able to be invited into your private pain just gets me so emotional. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah. Well, you did. I had someone, I had been very private at first about infertility, miscarriage, those kind of things. And then I felt like the Lord was, after, I don't know how long we had been struggling at this point, but I just felt like He was laying it on my heart to share about it. And so I did for the first time on social media. And I had a lady to send me your book in the mail, and she just said, I haven't read this personally, but I've just heard really good things about it. She's someone who infertility is not part of her story, but oh my goodness, it did me so good. And yes, it felt like for the first time I was seen, I was heard, and someone was not just like, yeah, it does stink, and fertility, it was no good, those kind of things, because you would hear that. But to have someone say, like, yeah, it does stink, but get up because there's still work to be done, and you still need to be clinging to the Lord during this, and I'll cry with you when you need me to, but there's still work to be done. There's still things to learn. And so, and that's what I needed, and you did that for me. So, I'm so grateful for that book. So anyone needs to go
so
get
fun.
that book right now. But if you don't mind, without giving everything away, because people need to read the book, but
Mhm.
tell us some about that story, your story, and why you would want to write the book.
Well, my story, in a very, very brief nutshell, is that it took us a full decade to be able to have children and have a family. And in the process of that wait, God told my husband and I very clearly that we were not to do anything but to wait for him to do his
Mm,
miracle. And that's an asterisk that I know is really unique to our story. And I'm not putting on anybody else. I'm not to say that infertility is not an option or adoption. All those things are incredible miracles of
yeah,
God's
yeah.
provision. But for us, it was one of those James situations where if you know what to do and you do not do it, then it's sin to you.
Mm,
So we just knew we were not supposed to do any medical interventions, no IUIs, no IVF, no adoption, nothing. We were just supposed to wait for his miracle, which is a really tough pill to swallow. And so in the process of all of that, I also experienced loss. My best friend was diagnosed with end stage cancer. And so there was
mm,
a lot of really deep grief and heartache that I was struggling with this one years long unanswered prayer.
yeah.
And then now another massive unanswered prayer. And after she died, I think a year after she died is when I published my very first blog post, because I wasn't really talking about our story because I didn't know anybody else that was struggling to conceive. And, everybody else in my purview was their family plans were moving along as
Right.
well as they, wanted them to go. And so I finally just started posting online so that I could try and maybe lock eyes with somebody across the internet
Yeah.
and see if their story would resonate with mine or, just to find a camaraderie and an audience. And so then I was posting on my blog and writing on my blog and kind of getting my writing feet wet. And then after we got pregnant with our first miracle babe, I got an email from Harvest House Publishing because one of their acquisitions editors went to high school with my husband. And so she knew of our story. And so she told their publishing team there at the publishing company about our story. And they reached out and they wanted to do a book with me. So it wasn't anything that I was shopping for or looking for.
Yeah.
They approached me and they said, this story needs to be told. And so I just kind of pulled all of my blog posts together and stacked up my prayer journals and started pulling out the things that were the most pertinent to our story and poured every ounce of it into my book. So that's how Mercy Like Morning came about.
Yeah. Well, and so one thing that, man, just really drew me in, but also felt very intimidating in your book is using, what is the website? I'm forget Blue Letter Bible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so that really intimidated me at first because you definitely, show people how to go back to the original Greek and Hebrew. Is that how, am I saying that right?
Yep. And Blue Letter Bible is my go-to Bible software. It has been for 20 years. They have a website. They have an app. I am not affiliate. This is not an affiliate link. This is just pure passion of 20 years
Wow.
of using their software to dig in. And it's all free. Like, it's all
Mm-hmm.
free resources online. You don't have to pay anything for it. And so in the process of waiting and trying to conceive and this unanswered prayer, I'm not a feminist by any means. So this is not a man-bashing statement. I hope that you hear me. But when I was in my years of waiting and I would read the stories of Hannah and I would read the stories of Sarah and Rachel and all of these women in the Bible that couldn't conceive, I wanted more and I wanted to dig deeper and to know God's heart for that. And I would read biblical commentaries that mostly were written by men who were not created to conceive and to carry a child and to experience that. And so they don't understand a woman's need to have a child. And so a lot of their commentaries and a lot of their insights would kind of gloss over this because I didn't understand it. And so because I was still like, I know that there's more and I need to know God's heart and I can't shake this, I taught myself how to dig deeper into the Greek and the Hebrew and to look up word definitions and figure out verb pursing and do all the cross-referencing. And that it opened a whole new world for me. And like specifically with Hannah's story, I was listening to your intro on the intro to the radio segment talking about Hannah's story. And knowing the nuances of the Hebrew language and the things that you can only discover when you're studying these word definitions, when Hannah goes to God's presence and she prays there at the threshold of the temple, when you're in this place where, like in history, historically, God hadn't spoken for something like 300 years. He had been completely silent. And this resonates with me, especially because, you know, a lot of times as you're waiting for an unanswered prayer, God can feel very silent, like he's not speaking much. But when you go and look at the text, there's a really subtle shift in the Hebrew language that you're not going to notice really when you're reading through the story. And so Hebrew, and in the Hebrew, and even in the English, where it talks about Hannah coming to God's presence, there's one part in the beginning when she first comes to God, and it says that she's praying to God, and then she pours out her heart and does all the things, and then when she walks away, after that, 2 verses later, it says that she's praying before God. And those are two different Hebrew words. And it's this idea when it says that she's praying before God after she's poured her heart out and she's walking away, the Hebrew word for before is the Hebrew word that's used for faith. And it gives me chills every time I talk about this because it's this idea that you're coming to the silence of God and he still doesn't say anything, but he turns his face towards her. And it's like he shifts his weight in acknowledgement of, hey, I heard you. Like the only way that I can describe it is like when my kids come into bed in the middle of the night and they climb up next to me and they want to like have a conversation. And now is not the time to talk. It's 2:00 in the morning. Now is not the time to have a conversation, but I move my body. So I'm shifting my weight so that they know that I'm there and I've heard them, but I'm not talking. And that's what God does in this story.
That's
and
beautiful.
That's the power of studying the Hebrew and the Greek linguistics is that you miss those details.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. Because she was, I mean, that story, can bring you to tears because as you've walked through infertility, you can just put yourself in her shoes, you know, of being there and like begging. And then we know the other half of the story of having Peniah in the picture and her, you know, the other wife being able to conceive and kind of making fun of Hannah. And it's just like, man, how do you add up? You know, my body's not doing what it says that God was, you know, created my body to do. And so to visualize or picture the Lord being available to her, I think just shows how soft and you know, just gentle he really is with us if we allow, you know, us to see him in that way. He's not just up there reigning on the throne, you know, bossing everyone around. He's there in those hurts and in those pains. Even when it feels like, you know, I was sitting on the couch by myself, but you know, like he was there. And walking through infertility, it's obviously something I would not wish on anyone, but I know I would not have this close relationship with the Lord without it. And so I have to be grateful for it.
Totally. And also, if you take it a step further and realize that, yes, this isn't just like an ambiguous detail of God's sovereignty where it's not personal. Like he's writing your story.
That's right.
And he knew from the beginning that this was going to be part of your story, but not just the intimacy that you get to experience and this aspect of God's character that most people don't get to experience, but you get to through this heartache and the suffering, but also add to it that if you look at all of the women in the Bible that had to wait or had a barren womb or struggle with barrenness, every single one of them, Hannah, Elizabeth, now as we're in the Christmas season and we're talking about John the Baptist, all these women conceived and birthed children, boys, that would go on and have these powerful stories and
That's
God
right.
would use in mighty ways.
Yeah.
And that was one of the other things that God like pointed out to me in my waiting is that like every single one of these men that their mothers waited for 15 or 20 years to be able to conceive and have them for the first time. And so the further I feel like what God was speaking to me was that the longer you wait and the bigger the story and the amount of glory that's kind of come from it and the impact is that he's going to use in your child's life for him is going to be so much greater. So that just really gave so much power and purpose to my weight.
That's right. That's right. And it does. I mean, yeah, each story of those men, I mean, they're even the guys that you're mentioning, the families that struggle with infertility, Jesus came from that, like that's part of his lineage. And so, yeah, goodness, yeah, it makes me so grateful for my children now, but to also encourage the people who might be listening that's like, well, that's not my story yet. I'm still waiting. And so it might sound like it's easier now that we're on this side of it, now that we've had children. So what would you say, maybe even to yourself or to the ladies listening that are still in that time of, okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to have a Samson. I don't know if I'm going to have a John the Baptist.
I think that that's something that you need to ask the Lord about. And that was something that I consistently returned to, was that I don't know that I'm going to have a baby, and I need you. I'm a huge fan, especially in scenarios like this, of confirm or deny. The confirm or deny prayer, it gives God the opportunity to give you signs and to have people speak into your life, to give you something to cling to, and then to confirm that over and over again so that you know that you're praying in the right direction. And so that's where it builds an intimacy with the Lord, and it teaches you how to recognize his voice speaking in your life as you wait. And I think that that's a really good place to start, is to say, God, is this something that you do have for me? And if it's not something that you have for me, then show me what you want to put my efforts, what you want me to put my efforts into instead. And just sit with that and write what you think is God and what God is saying, and ask him to confirm that through, like I had so many friends that would like have dreams and wake up and say, oh my gosh, I had this dream about you last night. And it would blow wind into my face. And I think that that is the best starting point, is just asking. And I'm sure there's so many people that are like, I've asked God so many times. And, it's just like Elijah was praying for rain, and he kept sending his servant back, and he was like, go ask again, go check again, go look again, and just repeatedly coming to the Lord. And ask him, if you're praying for the wrong thing, to shift the direction of your prayers, to pray in a way that's in line with his vision and his path for your life.
That's so good. And it is hard. It was hard for me to come to a point in my life and in my walk with Christ to say, God, change my prayer. I did get to that point, but like, God, I'm okay if the answer's no. And at one point, I never thought I would be able to say that. I was like, if someone says that, I don't think they're being completely honest. Like, how do you all of a sudden make this holy desire go away? But man, when my heart fully surrendered and said, God, you're worth more than anything else. And so as long as I am walking faithfully with you, that's really all that matters, And when I finally got to that point, everything changed about me. My whole outlook on having a baby. And I'm so grateful that I was able to get to that point before I had children, because obviously I still had some. I know we need to grow in our faith every single day. There's always something more to learn about the Lord and things to learn about ourselves. But I had some maturing to do in my faith, and I'm so thankful that happened, and that I had that emotional relationship with the Lord than just okay, I know your stories, because I learned them in Sunday school. I'm thankful for that. And Mercy Like Morning, how it teaches you to, because you don't leave people hanging saying just like, here's Blue Letter Bible, you should use it. You teach how to do that and how to get started. Because honestly, when you're going through the book, I'm trying to remember, because there's 100 things. Am I saying that right? 100? Is it 100 or 1,000? That you have 100. Someone 100. What do you have to list out?
Oh no, that was 1,000. That you're talking about the 1,000 gifts and Voss.
Yes.
1,000 gifts.
Okay.
Yes. That was something. And before I talk about that, I want to go back to something that you were talking about, how you had maturing to do. Like, I need to reiterate the fact that this takes work, and it's not really easy to say, okay, God, change my heart. Like, I understand there were at points in my weight that I had to come to Jesus 3 times a day. I'd be crying in the morning, And then I would sit with him for an hour, and all of a sudden, okay, I can handle this now. And then by noon, I'm crying again. And in the evening, like, I had to keep coming to him because every time that emotion came up, I had to keep bringing it to Jesus. So I just want to say that it's going to take some work. And part of that, then leading into Ann Boskamp's book, 1,000 Gifts, is this idea of keeping track of your list of thankfulness. And I didn't necessarily want to do it at first. And this is how I knew that I needed to do it, was because a friend of mine had a couple of kids, and she was writing every Friday. She was posting on her blog her list of thanks. And it was all the things that I wanted to be thankful for, right? So I'd read her blog, and I get so resentful because she's thanking God for the finger smudge print on the sliding glass door and, like, the crumbs on the table. And I'm like, well, my house is clean because I'm not dragging my hands across the windows. And, like,
that is
I'm, like,
so
sitting
true.
at my kitchen table, and all I hear is, like, the clock ticking. Like, it's dead silent in my house because it's just me. And so all of the things that I want to be thankful for, I was resenting other people's lists, and I forced myself to find really creative things in my mundane and my everyday, with my house that looks the same because I clean it every day and kids aren't messing it up, right? Finding the things that I can be thankful for. And I made it through. I think it took me a couple of years, but I finally made it through a full list of 1,000 things.
Wow.
And it really does change your perspective when you stop staring at the thing that you don't have and really start thanking God for the tiny, seemingly insignificant things that you do have that you can be thankful for, because that builds a mountain of gratitude that eclipses this little molehill of pain that is a mountain sometimes.
Oh, that's so good. I need to go back now and look, because I know just during the time I was reading the book, I obviously did not finish filling that out. So I have not thought about that in a long time. So I definitely have some things to add to that list. But that was so good.
For sure.
Well, Jane,
And
crazy.
People tell me, go ahead.
No, you're good. We have less than 5 minutes already, and so I need to tell why you're on today. Not just because I wanted you on, and I can't believe I have you on our show, but you are actually coming to Tupelo, Mississippi, where we are based, in January.
I'm so excited. I am I feel like we've been talking for 2 minutes, so this is an opportunity. We have 2 sessions. I'm going to tell my story in full detail.
That's right.
And I guarantee you will probably cry at some point.
Sorry, I will.
Sorry, that's just the way my story goes. But I can't wait to just lay it all out for you. I'm holding myself back right now.
Well, there's so many things I was like, I could ask about this, but this is really to tell about the conference that you're going to be part of here. Hannah's Heart is having a first ever conference. I still can't believe it. Whenever leadership came to me with the idea, I was like, oh, I've never done anything like this before. So it has been a humbling experience, but a growing experience for me for sure. And then to get in touch with you, I couldn't think of anyone better than to get us started in this yearly thing, if that's what this becomes. But to our listeners and to anyone who might be just coming on for the first time to this episode, I would highly encourage you to go sign up for this conference that we are having. It's January 30th and 31st here in Tupelo, Mississippi at Hope Church, Tupelo. And we are going to have a special worship leader coming all the way from Texas. He's been on the program before. His name is Phil King, and he has a song that he wrote called Miscarriages. And it is obviously very, very sweet, and will be definitely really close to a lot of people's hearts. But the conference is called Through It All. And so that's kind of like a wide range. You do not have to struggle with infertility or miscarriage to be welcomed at this event, because Jane, I think you would say too, like, that's not going to necessarily be the main focus of what you're going to be discussing.
Oh, no. Only one session is that part of our story. The second session is what I call the after part, and it's talking about expectations and how you might have an expectation of anything, your career or your life or whatever it might be, and how it doesn't necessarily shape up the way you expected it to, and how even through all of that, God is still so good.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I'm so excited. And for you to get tickets, we have links and stuff everywhere on like Facebook and social media, but you can go to afa.net, and that is where you can sign up for the conference. And so we are so excited, and we hope that you will join us. We'll have time for fellowship. Kendra and I are going to do a tiny little meet and greet on that Friday night, and Phil will be there to lead worship, and we will eat. Of course, you had to have food involved, and then the next morning, Jane will be joining us, and I cannot wait. I'm so humbled to be a part of this, and Jane, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to just squeeze you in person and to be there with all these women that just have a shared heartache of some sort. So I can't wait.
So good. Well, you guys, Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Happy New Year, and I will see you back next week on Hannah's Heart.